What up, Rob? Welcome to episode 109 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable and spring-like confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. For those that celebrate Good Friday, happy Good Friday. For those that don't, I hope you're enjoying your Friday, wherever you may be watching or listening. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Thank you guys, as always, for watching and listening. And before we go any further, I just want to make sure we touch on this episode. This episode is going to be part 2 of the NBA play-in tournament and first round preview. I'm going to be wrapping and reviewing up the last 2 recent play-in games. There's going to be some games coming on tonight. Miami Heat versus the Atlanta Hawks at 7 p.m. That's going to be for the 8th seed. And then you have at 9:30, Mavericks versus Grizzlies, which will be for the 8th seed as well in the Western Conference. So a lot of things to unpack. We know now for a fact that the Warriors are going to be playing the Rockets. So if you watched my previous video, part 1, I thank you as always. If you haven't, definitely check it out. The link will be in the description. But before we go any further, I want to make sure we give a shout out to our friends of the show. That is Sony PlayStation Direct. If you're looking to get a PlayStation 5, or if you're looking to just, play more than a game, or just immerse yourself in the experience of what it is to be a Sony PlayStation fan like myself, that I've been a fan of Sony PlayStation since 1996. I've been playing it that long. I still remember, I think it was Madden 95 or Madden 96. It was the first Madden on the PlayStation. So avid fan there. Of course, Call of Duty, a shitload of games there. So whatever you're into, bundles, God of War, whatever it is that you're looking for, Sony definitely has it. Definitely check out the links in the description of this video, and definitely, play. But as we're going to get into it, I'm going to start first with the team that is near and dear to my heart, my basketball, let's just say brethren, but this team has just been a fucking embarrassment this year. And those that don't know, I'm talking about the Sacramento Kings. Complete and utter disappointment. I mean, this season, as a diehard fan, and guys, I've been a fan since the early 2000s. So I've been a fan since the J. Will days, White Chocolate days. I have to admit, I've seen some bad Kings teams. I've seen some Kings teams where you thought, they might have a shot, and then by midseason, you're like, no. This team, with all the hype, promise, and bullshit that just went into this season, is well documented. I even reported on the show when we got DeRozan. I thought that was a huge trade. I saw the organization was trying to make a jump to get better. But don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thanks. When you look at the nuts and bolts of it all, it was just an abject failure. I mean, first we're going to start from a couple nights ago. You lose to a team in the Dallas Mavericks who under fire for getting rid of their best player, a generational talent, Luka Doncic, in a tailspin as far as the end of the season and how they played. I mean, damn near missed the playoffs as far as, bottoming out at the end of the year, losing Kyrie Irving, getting Anthony Davis back late, only really having Klay Thompson and a few guys, and you lost to him at home? Ass. And that's just what Sacramento's been this whole season. Ass. Arguably, I think 6th worst. I mean, I checked this out. I will post this in the video. 6th worst defensive rating in NBA history as far as defending the 3-point shot. I mean, that's just a joke. That's just a joke. You fired Mike Brown, you got rid of De'Aaron Fox, and then you turned this team into the Chicago Bulls. I don't understand it. The Mavericks won the game 120. The Kings had scored 106 points. So clearly, and I can honestly tell you, I watched most of it. It was not close. It was not close. The Mavericks, they wanted this game way more than Sacramento did. I'm glad because right after an hour after the game, Monte McNair was fired. I am so glad that this happened because I know people are going to look at Monte McNair's record and say, hey, well, you won 40 games all 3 years that he was there. You got to the playoffs 2 years ago. Yeah, and after that playoff season, the team regressed. And he didn't really add any necessary free agents. And I will admit, because I'm not blind, deaf, or dumb, Vivek Ranadive has to take a step back. He has to allow his basketball people to make decisions. I want the Kings to win and be dominant. Yes, I want the Kings to be a powerhouse NBA team and be contending just like the Thunder are. Guess what? When you have ownership in a front office that's just, I don't know, for lack of better fucking words, incompetent, meddling, this happens. I know Vivek Ranadive wants this team to win. I know he does. I want this team to win. But the meddling has to fucking stop. It's not benefiting the team. You know, I'm watching a video on Bobby Marks yesterday where he's talking candidly about the Kings offseason. He said that he asked an exec, a friend of his, and keep in mind, this guy's an insider. He asked an executive friend of his, and they said, the scenario being that if, Vivek Ranadive had to disappear for 6 years, and, at the current state what the Kings are, and then he comes back and the Kings are a perennial winner, would he be comfortable with that? And he said, I don't think he would be. I mean, that's a rat bastard situation as a fan for this team to be in. Because it's essentially basically saying it's a Jerry Jones situation. If he doesn't really get the credit for the rebuild or the win, then it's all naught, and then shit's just going to go to the wayside. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. But Monte McNair deserved to get fired. I mean, he did a horrible job this year. DeRozan, let's just be honest. Though DeMar DeRozan is native Californian, huge, big time player, all-star, got to give him credit for what he did in Toronto. I know things didn't necessarily work out in San Antonio, but wherever he's at, he's been consistent as far as, scoring and being an offensive threat. That being said, that move was a failure. You have to accept that you literally did not get any better with him getting on your roster. And I know that there was different coaching sets, and you had Doug Christie, who hadn't been a head coach. And a lot of people were like, well, he got out-coached in that game against Jay Kidd. Well, he should have. Jason Kidd has been to the NBA Finals. Jason Kidd has been an NBA coach longer than Doug Christie has. If he hadn't got out-coached, I would be very shocked. That being said, though, they're going to have to address that situation, too. Are they going to keep Doug Christie as head coach? Now, we already know Monte McNair is going. Yesterday, Sacramento brought in Scott Perry as GM. Now, for those of you that are diehards, you already know who Scott Perry is. For those that are uninitiated, Scott Perry essentially was already in the organization in 2017. He was there for a brief stint, and then the Knicks swooped him right in, and he's been a part of that whole rebuild with the Knicks. Kind of still in a little bit of our luster and glory over there in New York, But nonetheless, he's also has previous records for working with the Pistons, Knicks, as I previously stated, and the Orlando Magic, and the Detroit Pistons, like I previously stated. But either way, he has a track record of rebuilding rosters and getting teams where they need to be. This guy should have been the GM in the first place the last time. He was assisting Vlade Divac. It scared me to hear that Vlade Divac is around. Thank God he is not signing on any roles and taking on any major decisions. So we dodged a bullet there, Kings fans. Because I would never forgive him for not drafting Luka Doncic. I won't. You can talk to me about the whole De'Aaron Fox, ball handling, backcourt shit. You blew it. You blew it. But I think, looking at free agency, you got Jake LaRavia, you got Markelle Fultz. You might want to bring back just, for perimeter depth. Malik Monk already stated that he's all in and he will resign. So kind of got it tight there. If you're Sacramento, as you can see here, your core is pretty much intact. You kind of know exactly what you're coming back with next year. Keon Ellis, do you sign him to a new contract or, have him play for his supper and give him a restricted free agent tender? That's a question. Isaiah Jones, that's another question there. But I think if you're not able, because you're not going to be able to spend a shitload of money going into free agency, you have your team set. I think you need a good coach, and I think you need to implement a positive system because Sabonis is playing out of his mind. I like this. I like the setup of how they had things with Levine, DeRozan, Sabonis, how they had the guards playing, but you need a true point guard too. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to take your spouse out, have a great time with some friends, then look no further than the #1 leading ticket seller and reseller in the world, StubHub. #1 seller in the world for live events, tickets, shows, and concerts, StubHub. I don't really feel like this. I feel like since they got rid of De'Aaron Fox, it was clear, it was very, glaring and evident. This team needs a point guard. So that's got to be something they got to consider as well. But yeah, I mean, a soft reset is needed. I don't think they have to, burn it down because they have talent. They've won 40 games, so it's not like they're devoid of talent. But in the Western Conference, that's not enough to make the playoffs and clear the decks. I mean, you had 43, 44 win teams in the play-in tournament this year. So Got to get better. Got to get better. But we'll see. Definitely a disappointment if you're a Kings fan like myself. The next team who, ironically, and I also have a link of this description in the video too, because I've reported on this team as well during the end of the season review video. The Chicago Bulls. Same seed as Sacramento. Just pretty much, chasing your tail in a tailspin, not really going anywhere. You lose in a blowout to Miami. Final score being Miami 109, Chicago 90. They were getting manhandled, Chicago, that is, for most of the game. It was never really in question. Tyler Herro was the leading scorer. He had 38 points. When you're not expecting much from them, you're not expecting much from, the Miami Heat. They tend to show up, and that was the night they did. But the Bulls need to completely hit the reset button. I know they got this whole Josh Giddey situation going on and wonder if and when they may re-sign him. I know ESPN's Brian Windhorst has already reported previously that, there was been really no movements on that front so far. Josh Giddey's kind of looking for the bag, which is kind of funny being that up until really the second half of the season, that trade was a flop. As I previously stated in the video, that trade was not looking good, but he eventually, turned it around and started playing better. But if you're really, really looking at situations for, as things play out, you really got to sit there and think. When you're going into the dynamics of the Chicago Bulls, right? They actually have a pretty much better outlook than what Sacramento has. I mean, they actually will have salary cap space going forward. They're going to be in a position to really acquire some talent and get some guys that can really help this roster. Now, that being said, the GM didn't really inspire confidence. When you're looking at their situation and you're looking at the Bulls are already kind of like, okay, well, we kind of know that we weren't going to be contending for the championship this year. We just more or less need to stay afloat. You like what you saw at Alonzo Ball. You like the growth that you saw out of Kobe White. But, you have questions there with him, too, because he's going to be a free agent in 2026. What's the future outlook with him? And then, via the Sports Business Journal, Bulls Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Arturas, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Karnasovis urges patience after missing the third straight playoff. And as you can see here in the quotes from the article, he's asking fans of patience. And, according to Julia Poe, the Chicago Tribune, he's stressing patience and emphasizing patience to the fans, stating that they have a plan to kind of expedite this rebuild, which essentially in English means he has a plan to microwave the process. That's never a great thing when you hear that as a fan. You know for a fact the process can't be microwaved. You get blessed with getting great talent once in a while here and there, but essentially you just got to build good teams up. That's just what it is. His outlook of not really clarifying and not really promising, under promising and then planning to over deliver. It's smart. That's how you keep your job. However, free agency is going to be imperative for the Chicago Bulls. They have to spend money. Now, again, what does that mean for Kobe White? What does that mean for some of the other guys that have played well for them? I don't know. But if you're Chicago, just like Sacramento, you're in a situation where you have to improve mightily to compete. I mean, the Eastern Conference, all the jokes that people had throughout the year and the shit that was said, the Eastern Conference was stacked. I mean, most people don't realize the Eastern Conference playoff seeding and chart was secured a week before the season was over. I want to say even 2 weeks before, just about 2 weeks before. But either way, the Bulls aren't in it. Just like Sacramento, the Bulls aren't in it. And they got to spend some money. Now, they're projected to be $59.8 million below the luxury tax apron and $71.6 million below the most restrictive second apron. So they're going to have some money to play with. They're going to have a very real chance to really upgrade this roster and be a top 5 team as far as cap space. So you got to give the Bulls credit there. They have a plan. I don't think they have a full idea yet of who they could possibly get. I think they have an outline, a projection, but I don't think they really know who they're going to be able to get yet. So, got to get the rebuild going there because, this middling results and just keep this revolving door of fuckery it's a tailspin. Also want to touch on Traeyoung real briefly. As you guys know, Traeyoung was ejected in his game the other day, not wanting to give the ball to the referee. You know, I don't really understand it too much. I mean, I get it. Frustration gets the best of us sometimes, but petty little bullshit. I don't know. Traeyoung sometimes I wonder because he doesn't do John Moran type shit, but he does little sneaky, little petty ass, nitpickish type shit where it just doesn't make any sense. I didn't understand why you didn't want to give the ball to the referee. I mean, I get it. Maybe you didn't get a foul call that you didn't want. Maybe things didn't go the way that you were kind of hoping. But if you're the big picture, if you're Atlanta, what does this say that we're consistently in a play-in tournament with this guy? And we did make a phantom or let's say fluke Eastern Conference Finals from a choking Sixers roster a couple years ago. But in all honesty, we didn't even deserve to be there, and we haven't really contended. We've gutted this roster 2 times over since he's been here, and we haven't gotten better. So I think Traeyoung's a guy or a candidate where you got to consider at some point maybe they got to get off him because, he's good enough to get them on the fringe of the playoffs, but he's not a guy to get them over the top. And his game has gotten better, but it's not gotten better to the point where his team is getting better. Yeah, so be that as it may, but wild situation that went on there, just kind of crazy. Before we wrap this episode up, I wanted to make sure that I touched on Bryce James, the youngest son of LeBron James, younger son of Bronny James, the younger brother, of Bronny James, has announced today that he will be, it's kind of actually breaking news per The Athletic this afternoon. He announced he will be joining the Arizona Wildcats and going to Arizona for college. I think this is a great move for Bryce. Unlike his brother, I do think that the college, wear and tear and playing will help his game. I like Bryce a lot, watching him come up. Bronny got a lot of the hype and speculation because, he's, the namesake of LeBron James. But I always felt like Bryce might be the better player as far as, the defender and the shooter. I could be dead wrong, but that's just what I've seen on film from my own eyes. And this is great news for them. I think this is going to help him tremendously in college. And then by the time he's ready to get into the pro game, he'll be ready. But, kind of wish his brother would have took this route, but very excited for Bryce James and his family, and very excited for him and see what the future may bring with that decision. And again, as a quick reminder, don't forget the last 2 play-in games are going on this evening. 7 p.m. Miami Heat versus Atlanta Falcons. That play-in game will be for the 8th seed. And also at 9:30, don't forget to tune in to Mavericks versus Grizzlies. That game will be for the 8th seed and the benefit of playing the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round. Good luck to whoever unlucky bastard wins that game tonight. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for watching part 2 of the NBA Play-In Tournament recap and review. I love you guys. Thank you for plugging in as always. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. Take care. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your Easter weekend. And be safe.